The vending machine coffee tasted like burnt regret, but at 3 in the morning in the airport control tower, it was the only thing keeping me awake. My name is Colton Hayes, and I've been guiding planes through the sky for 15 years. Tonight felt different, though. Tonight, the pit in my stomach had nothing to do with aviation emergencies. My phone buzzed against the metal desk. A group text from my wife, Mira. She'd accidentally shared a selfie meant for someone else. In the background, I could see a man's bare arm draped casually around her shoulders. The timestamp showed it was taken 2 hours ago. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Oops, wrong chat. Sorry, everyone, she typed immediately after. I stared at that arm. It looked familiar, and too familiar. The shift ended at 6 a.m. I drove home through the gray February morning, watching the suburbs wake up around me. Our house sat at the end of Maple Street, a modest 2-story that we'd bought 8 years ago when we still believed in forever. Now it felt like a mausoleum. Mira was already up, making coffee in the kitchen. She wore her silk robe, the one I'd bought her for Christmas. Her dark hair was perfectly styled, even at this early hour. "How was work?" she asked without looking up. "Same as always, keeping people from fading." I set my keys on the counter. "Interesting photo last night." She froze for just a second. "Oh, that. I was out with Lindsay. You know how she gets with the camera." Lindsay, her best friend since college, the woman who'd never liked me, though she hid it behind fake smiles and backhanded compliments. Lindsay has man arms now. Mira's laugh sounded forced. "That was the waiter. He photobombed us." I nodded, playing along. Must have been a friendly waiter. She finally looked at me, her green eyes searching my face for cracks in my composure. "You're being paranoid, Colton. It's not attractive." There it was, the deflection. Make it my fault, my insecurity, my problem. I'd seen this playbook before. "You're right. I'm just tired." She smiled and kissed my cheek. "Get some sleep. I have client meetings all day." Mira worked as a freelance interior designer, a job that gave her flexible hours and plenty of opportunities to be anywhere but home. Lately, she'd been working a lot of evening appointments. I went upstairs and pretended to sleep until I heard her car pull out of the driveway. Then I did something I'd never done before. I checked our shared cloud account. The photos were all there. Dozens of them, dating back 3 months. Mira with the same man, getting progressively more intimate, restaurant dinners, hotel lobbies, a cabin by the lake, and in the most recent ones, I could see his face clearly. My brother Tanner. My younger brother, the golden boy who'd never held a job for more than 2 years, who borrowed money he never paid back, who charmed his way through life while I worked double shifts to pay for everything. Tanner, who'd been coming to our house for Sunday dinners, who'd hugged me and called me his hero just last week. I scrolled through their text messages next. The shared account meant I could see everything. Tanner, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Colton working late again?" Mira, "Until midnight. We have the whole evening." Tanner, "Good. I'm tired of sneaking around. When are you going to leave him?" Mira, "Soon. I just need to figure out the finances. The house, the accounts. I'm not walking away empty-handed." Tanner, "He doesn't deserve you. Never did." Mira, "He's so boring. So serious about everything. You make me feel alive again." I read for 2 hours, watching my marriage dissolve in real time through their words. They'd been meeting at the Sunset Motel on Highway 9. They used his company car, a white van from the logistics company where he worked part-time. They charged dinners to my credit card, thinking I wouldn't notice. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how they talked about me. Like I was already gone. Like I was just an obstacle to remove. My phone rang. Mira, "Hey, honey. I'll be late tonight. Big client presentation." "Which client?" A pause. "The Hendersons. Remember, the lake house renovation?" I pulled up the Find My Phone app. Her location showed the Sunset Motel. "Sounds important. Don't work too hard." "Love you," she said, the words as empty as our joint checking account would be soon. I hung up and sat in our bedroom, looking at the wedding photos on the dresser. 7 years of marriage. 7 years of building a life with someone who was planning to tear it down. If misery had a brand manager, it would be my wife. I got dressed and drove to the motel. The white company van was parked outside room 127. I sat in my car for an hour, watching the curtains, imagining what was happening inside. Then I got out and keyed the van from front to back. Deep scratches that would cost hundreds to repair. I left a note under the windshield wiper. "Hope it was worth it." Mrs. Patterson from next door was walking her dog when I got home. She waved and held up her phone. Colton, I got the funniest video of you earlier. You were acting so strange in that parking lot. What video? Oh, just you by that van. You looked so angry. I thought it was hilarious how you were gesturing at it. She'd filmed me vandalizing Tanner's van. Perfect. An hour later, my phone exploded with calls from Mira. What the hell did you do to Tanner's van? I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. Mrs. Patterson sent me a video. You keyed his van. Interesting. What was his van doing at a motel? Silence. Then, you're sick, Colton. Following me around, destroying property. I'm done with this marriage. Funny. I was just thinking the same thing. You want a war? You'll get one. I'll make sure you lose everything. She hung up. I poured myself a beer and sat on the back porch, watching the sun set over our fading neighborhood. She wanted war. Let's see who wins. The next morning brought a text from my daughter, Emma. She's 15, from my first marriage, and visits every other weekend. The message was a screenshot of her TikTok post. When your dad's a loser and your uncle's the upgrade. Crude and family drama awkward. It had 3,000 likes. I called her immediately. Emma, what is this? Dad, everyone knows. Mom told me about Aunt Mira and Uncle Tanner. She said you were being controlling, and that's why they fell in love. My ex-wife Jennifer, still poisoning my daughter against me 8 years after our divorce. Emma, there's more to this story than... Whatever, Dad. Uncle Tanner's fun. You're just... not. She hung up. My own daughter, choosing sides in a war I didn't start. I needed perspective, so I drove to Ray's boxing gym on the south side of town. Ray Kowalski had trained fighters for 30 years before opening this place. It was a sanctuary for men who needed to hit something without consequences. You look like hell, Ray said as I walked in. He was wrapping hands for a heavyweight who was pounding the speed bag. Feel like it too? I told him everything while I worked the heavy bag. Ray listened without judgment, occasionally nodding or grunting approval. Here's the thing, Colton, he said when I finished. Right now, you're fighting their fight. Emotional, reactive, sloppy. You want to win? You need to fight your fight. Which is what? Smart, patient, dirty when necessary, but calculated. He handed me a towel. Don't hit back yet. Outsmart them. Get dirty, but stay smart. That evening, Mira came home with Tanner. They walked into our house together like it was the most natural thing in the world. Tanner wore his usual uniform. Expensive jeans, designer t-shirt, cocky smile. Colton, he said, extending his hand. We need to talk. I stared at his hand until he lowered it. Do we? Mira sat on our couch, crossing her legs. Tanner and I are together now. We're not hiding anymore. How progressive of you. Look, bro, Tanner said, settling into my chair. My chair. This isn't how we wanted you to find out, but you wanted to sleep with my wife in cheap motels for 3 months first? Mira's face flushed. Don't be crude. Crude? You want to see crude? I pulled out my phone and started reading their texts aloud. Tanner, Tuesday, February 8th. I want to do things to you that would make your husband cry. Stop, Mira whispered. Mira, February 10th? Colton hasn't touched me in months. He's probably impotent. You make me feel like a real woman. Tanner stood up. That's enough. February 15th, Tanner. When you divorce him, we should buy a place in Florida. Use his money for the down payment. I said that's enough. Tanner stepped toward me. I didn't back down. Or what? You'll steal my wife? Too late. He shoved me. I shoved back, harder. He stumbled into the coffee table, knocking over Mira's wine. Stop it, she screamed. Both of you. Tanner straightened his shirt, trying to recover his dignity. I'm not doing this here. No, I said. You're doing this in motel rooms, on my credit card. They left together, Mira grabbing clothes from our bedroom while Tanner waited in the hallway. She didn't look at me when she walked out. I sat alone in our house, surrounded by the wreckage of my life, and started planning. The next day was Sunday dinner at my parents' house. Mom had been hosting these weekly gatherings for 20 years, and the whole extended family usually showed up. Today would be different. I arrived early and helped Mom set the table. She was 68, silver-haired, and sharp as a knife, despite her grandmotherly appearance. Where's Mira? She asked. She'll be along? With Tanner? Together? That's nice. I'm glad you boys are spending time. Mom, there's something you need to know. I showed her the photos and texts, all of them. I watched her face change from confusion to disgust to rage. That little slut, she whispered. Mom never cursed. Ever. I'm going to handle this, but I need you to know the truth first. By the time everyone arrived, Mom had told Dad, and Dad had told my Uncle Mike, and Uncle Mike had told his wife Sarah. The family grapevine was faster than the internet. Mira and Tanner walked in holding hands. The room went silent. "Hello, everyone," Mira said brightly, either oblivious to the tension or choosing to ignore it. Tanner kissed Mom's cheek. "Hey, Mom, something smells great." She pulled away from him like he was radioactive. "Sit down, both of you." Dinner was excruciating. Forced conversation, long silences, the occasional whispered comment between relatives. Mira kept trying to engage people in normal chat, but no one was playing along. Finally, my cousin Dave's wife Lisa couldn't take it anymore. "So Mira, how long have you been cheating on Colton?" The question hung in the air like smoke from a fire. Mira's fork clattered to her plate. "Excuse me?" "We've all seen the photos," Uncle Mike said. "And the texts." Tanner's face went pale. "What photos?" I smiled. "The ones from your romantic getaways. Very artistic, especially the ones where you're planning to spend my money on a house in Florida." "You had no right," Mira started. "I had every right. It's my cloud account, my credit cards, my brother." Tanner stood up. "Look, this got complicated, but sit down." Dad's voice cut through the room like a blade. My father was 70, a retired construction foreman who'd never raised his voice to his children. When he spoke, people listened. Tanner sat. "In my day," Dad said slowly, "a man who betrayed his brother got run out of town. A woman who cheated on her husband got shunned by decent people." "This isn't your day," Mira snapped. "This is 2024. People get divorced. They find happiness with other people." "After they end their marriages," Mom said. "Not during." The rest of dinner was a masterclass in family warfare. Subtle insults, pointed questions, uncomfortable silences. By dessert, Mira was crying, and Tanner was making excuses to leave. "This isn't over," Mira whispered to me as they gathered their coats. "No," I agreed. It's just getting started." They left together, and the family spent another hour dissecting their behavior like amateur psychologists. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in months. Phase 1 was complete. Now everyone knew the truth. The lawyer's letter arrived on Wednesday. Mira wanted the house, alimony, and half of everything we'd built together. She was claiming emotional cruelty and financial manipulation. Her attorney was Jennifer Morrison, the most expensive divorce lawyer in the county. I called my own lawyer, Tom Bradley, a former prosecutor who'd handled my first divorce. "She's going for maximum damage," Tom said after reviewing the papers. "Claims you're controlling, possibly abusive, definitely unstable." "Based on what?" "The van incident. Apparently there's video evidence of you vandalizing her boyfriend's property." I laughed. It felt good. "Her boyfriend is my brother, and that van belongs to his employer." "Even better. We can use the adultery to contest alimony. But Colton, you need to be smart about this. No more property damage, no confrontations. Let me handle the legal stuff while you handle the evidence gathering." "What kind of evidence?" "Financial records, proof of the affair, documentation of any marital assets she's trying to hide." Tom leaned forward. "And anything that shows she's not the victim she's claiming to be." I spent the next week becoming a forensic accountant. Credit card statements, bank records, phone bills, social media posts. Mira had been sloppy, leaving digital breadcrumbs everywhere. The affair had cost me $4,000 in hotel rooms, dinners, and weekend trips. She'd used our joint credit card for everything, probably thinking I wouldn't notice the charges. But the real discovery was her side business. Mira had been taking cash payments from some clients and not reporting them. It wasn't tax fraud exactly, but it was enough to destroy her professional reputation if her business partners found out. I made copies of everything and sent anonymous packages to 3 people. Mira's business partner, Rebecca, Tanner's boss at the logistics company, and the president of the Interior Design Association, where Mira held a board position. Then I went to see Emma. My daughter lived with Jennifer in a subdivision that looked like it was designed by someone who hated joy. Every house was beige. Every lawn was identical. Every mailbox was regulation black. Jennifer answered the door wearing yoga pants and an expression of barely contained irritation. "She's not here," she said before I could speak. "Where is she?" "Friend's house. She doesn't want to see you right now." "Because of the TikTok thing?" Jennifer's smile was sharp as broken glass. "Because you're embarrassing yourself. Everyone's talking about how you lost your wife to your own brother. It's pathetic." "Is it?" "Emma's ashamed of you. I'm ashamed I was ever married to you." She started to close the door. I put my hand against it, gently but firmly. Tell Emma I love her, and tell her that sometimes people aren't who they pretend to be. Are you threatening me? I'm stating a fact. That night, I went to the Holding Pattern, a bar near the airport where off-duty controllers and mechanics drank away their stress. It was the kind of place where everyone knew your name and nobody judged your problems. Tanner was there. He sat at the far end of the bar, nursing a beer and checking his phone. He looked smaller somehow, less confident than usual. The golden boy was tarnishing. I ordered a whiskey and sat 3 stools away, close enough to be noticed, far enough to avoid immediate confrontation. Colton. He nodded at me. Tanner. The bartender, a guy named Murphy who'd been pouring drinks here for 15 years, looked between us like he was expecting violence. Heard you lost your job, I said conversationally. Tanner's jaw tightened. Temporarily suspended. Pending investigation. Investigation into what? You know what? I did know. His boss had received copies of credit card statements showing personal charges to the company fuel card, hotel receipts with dates that matched his work schedule, GPS data from the company van showing trips to locations that had nothing to do with logistics. That's rough. Economy's tough right now. Hard to find good work. Cut the shit, Colton. We both know you sent that stuff to my boss. I turned to face him fully. Prove it. He stood up, his face flushed with anger and alcohol. You want to play games? Fine, but remember, I have something you want. Had. Past tense. Mira loves me, not you. She never loved you. The words hit harder than I expected, but I kept my voice level. Maybe, but she loved my bank account, and my house, and my credit cards. Funny how that works. Tanner took a step closer. You think you're so smart, so superior, but you're just a bitter loser who couldn't keep his wife happy. And you're a 32-year-old boy who's never built anything in his life. You just take what other people build. He swung at me then, a wild, drunken punch that I saw coming from a mile away. I stepped aside, and he stumbled into the bar stool, knocking it over. Murphy was already reaching for the phone. Take it outside, both of you. No need, I said, finishing my whiskey. I was just leaving. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. Oh, Tanner, you might want to check your credit score. Amazing how fast things can change when you miss a few payments. Now, his face went white. I'd found his financial records too. 3 credit cards, all maxed out. A car loan he was behind on. Student loans in default. My brother was broke, living paycheck to paycheck, and now he didn't have a paycheck. I left him standing there, surrounded by the wreckage of his golden boy image, and drove home to my empty house. The next morning, I found a rock through my front window and a note tied around it. This is just the beginning. I called the police and filed a report. Officer Martinez took photos and statements, but we all knew nothing would come of it. No witnesses, no fingerprints, no proof. But I had security cameras now. Front door, back door, driveway, garage. If they wanted to escalate, I'd be ready. That afternoon, Mira's business partner, Rebecca, called me. Colton, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Shoot. Did Mira ever mention taking cash payments from clients? Why do you ask? Someone sent me copies of bank deposits that don't match our business records. If she's been hiding income from the partnership, that's between you and her, Rebecca. I'm just trying to get through a divorce. I understand. But if you know anything, I know she's been living a double life for months. Beyond that, you'll have to ask her directly. Rebecca sighed. I was afraid you'd say that. The partnership was dissolving. Mira's professional reputation was in ruins. Her personal life was a disaster. Her family had turned against her. But she still had Tanner, and they still had each other's delusions. For now. The community center meeting was supposed to be about the annual town festival, but everyone knew it was really about the Hayes family drama. Small towns love their gossip, and our situation had become the entertainment of choice for half of Millbrook. I arrived early and took a seat in the back row. Mira and Tanner came in together, trying to look dignified despite the whispers that followed them. They sat in the middle section, close enough to the front to seem engaged, far enough back to avoid scrutiny. Lindsay arrived alone, which was unusual. She normally traveled with Mira like a faithful shadow, but tonight she kept her distance. Interesting. The meeting dragged through budget discussions and permit applications until Mayor Davidson brought up the festival committee assignments. We need volunteers for the kissing booth, he announced, looking directly at Mira with barely concealed amusement. The room erupted in barely suppressed laughter. Mira's face turned crimson. That's not funny, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Nobody said it was, replied Mrs. Chen from the front row. We just think you're uniquely qualified." More laughter. Tanner stood up. "This is harassment," he said. "We don't have to sit here and take this." "You're right," I said, standing up in the back. "You could always leave town." The room went silent. Everyone turned to look at me. "You have something to say, Colton?" Mayor Davidson asked. "Just that it's interesting how some people think they can destroy families without consequences." "I didn't destroy anything," Mira shot back. "Our marriage was already over." "Was it? Or did you eliminate it?" Tanner stepped into the aisle. "That's enough." "Is it?" "Because I think people should know the whole story. How you used company property for personal business, how you charged your affair to my credit cards, how you planned to steal half my assets to buy a house in Florida." "You're lying," Mira said, but her voice lacked conviction. I pulled out my phone and started reading their texts again, the really damaging ones, the ones where they mocked me, planned their future with my money, and described their encounters in graphic detail. "Stop," Lindsay said quietly from her seat. Everyone looked at her. "Just stop, all of you." She stood up, looking older than her 34 years. Her blonde hair was pulled back severely, and her makeup couldn't hide the stress lines around her eyes. "This is my fault," she said. The room was silent now. I told Mira that Colton was cheating on her. I showed her fake evidence, text messages I created, photos I manipulated. I convinced her that her marriage was a lie. I knew she was vulnerable, insecure about getting older, worried that Colton didn't find her attractive anymore, so I fed those fears. I pushed her toward Tanner because I knew he was weak and stupid and would go along with it. Mira was staring at her best friend with her mouth open. "Why?" she whispered. Lindsay looked directly at me. "Because 5 years ago, Colton got me fired from the airport. I applied for a dispatcher position, and he blocked my application, said I was unstable and inappropriate for a safety-sensitive position." I remembered now. Lindsay had been dating a pilot, a married pilot, and had been making scenes at the airport when he tried to end things. She'd been calling his wife, showing up at his flights, creating drama that could have compromised safety. I'd reported her behavior to HR. "You destroyed my career," she continued, "so I decided to destroy your marriage." The room erupted in chaos. People shouting, chairs scraping, voices raised in anger and disbelief. In the middle of it all, Mira and Tanner were staring at each other with dawning horror. "You manipulated me," Mira said to Lindsay. "You wanted to be manipulated," Lindsay shot back. "You wanted an excuse to cheat. I just gave you one." Tanner looked lost, like a child who'd wandered into an adult conversation. "But you said... You showed me the messages where Colton was... fake. All of it." Mira turned to me, tears streaming down her face. "Colton, I'm sorry. I thought you were cheating. I thought you didn't love me anymore." "So you decided to cheat first?" "I was hurt. I was angry. I wasn't thinking clearly." "For 3 months?" She had no answer for that. The meeting dissolved into smaller arguments and heated discussions. I walked out without saying another word, leaving them to sort through the wreckage of their own making. But I wasn't done. Not even close. The next morning, I moved all our joint assets into accounts that only I could access. Legal, since my name was on everything, and necessary to prevent Mira from cleaning me out while I processed this new information. Then I called Tom Bradley. "The manipulation angle changes things," he said. "But it doesn't excuse the adultery. She still made choices." "What about Lindsay? Can we go after her for something?" "Criminally? Probably not. But civilly? Maybe. Intentional interference with marriage is still a tort in some states." I thought about it. Suing Lindsay would be satisfying, but it would also drag this mess out for years. I wanted it over. "Let's focus on the divorce. I want everything." "Everything." "The house, the cars, the investments, the retirement accounts. She can have her clothes and her guilt." That afternoon, Tanner showed up at my house. He looked terrible, unshaven, wearing the same clothes from the night before, eyes red from crying or drinking or both. "Can we talk?" he asked. I let him in, curious to hear what he had to say. "I messed up," he said, slumping onto my couch. "I messed up so bad." "Yes, you did." "She told me you were cheating. She showed me evidence. I thought I was helping her, protecting her." "By sleeping with her?" He winced. "I know how it sounds, but I've always been jealous of you. You had the good job, the nice house, the beautiful wife. When she said you were treating her badly, I thought maybe I could give her what she deserved. What she deserved was a husband who honored his vows. I know that now, but at the time it felt like maybe I could be the good brother for once, instead of the screw-up." I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. What do you want, Tanner? I want to fix this. I want to make it right. You can't. I can try. I'll tell everyone the truth. I'll admit that I was manipulated, that I should have come to you first. And then what? And then maybe we can be brothers again. I looked at him sitting there, broken and pathetic, and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no pity, just emptiness. You want to make it right? I said. Stay away from me, stay away from Mira, and stay away from my family. Colton, get out. He left without another word. An hour later, Mira called. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. Please. I know you hate me, but I need to explain. There's nothing to explain. You made your choices. I was manipulated. We both were. You were adults. You could have talked to me. You could have asked me directly if I was cheating. Instead, you chose to believe lies and act on them. I'm sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix this. What can I do? Sign the divorce papers when they arrive. Don't contest anything, and don't ever contact me again. She was crying when I hung up. That night, I sat in my empty house and planned the final act. The annual Millbrook Summer Festival was the biggest event of the year. The whole town turned out for the carnival rides, food booths, and live music. This year, it would also be the stage for the end of my marriage and the beginning of my new life. I'd volunteered to help with the sound system, which gave me access to the main stage microphone and the large screen they used for announcements and slideshows. Perfect for what I had planned. The festival started at noon on Saturday. By 2 o'clock, most of the town was there, including my parents, my extended family, Emma and Jennifer, Mira and Tanner, and even Lindsay, who seemed determined to face the consequences of her actions. I waited until the peak attendance time, right before the pie-eating contest that always drew the biggest crowd. Mayor Davidson was on stage, making announcements about the evening's entertainment. And now, he said, Colton Hayes has asked to make a special announcement. I walked up to the microphone, looking out at the sea of faces, some curious, some hostile, some sympathetic, all of them about to get more entertainment than they'd bargained for. Thank you, Mayor Davidson. I know a lot of you have been talking about my family situation, so I thought I'd give you the facts. I clicked the remote in my pocket. The big screen behind me lit up with a slideshow I'd prepared. 3 months ago, my wife Mira began an affair with my brother Tanner. The first slide showed them together at the Sunset Motel, timestamp clearly visible. They used company property for their meetings. Next slide, Tanner's van in the motel parking lot. They charged their dates to my credit cards. A series of receipts appeared on screen, highlighting the romantic dinners and hotel stays. They planned to divorce me and use my assets to buy a house in Florida. Screenshots of their text conversations, the most damaging ones enlarged for easy reading. The crowd was riveted. You could hear a pin drop. But here's the interesting part, I continued. They were manipulated into this affair by Lindsay Morrison, who wanted revenge against me for a work-related incident 5 years ago. I looked directly at Lindsay in the crowd. She was pale as paper. Lindsay created fake evidence that I was cheating. She fed my wife's insecurities and pushed her toward my brother, knowing he was weak enough to go along with it. More slides. The fake text messages Lindsay had created, side by side with the real ones showing the timestamps were impossible. So we have a woman who believed lies instead of talking to her husband, a man who betrayed his brother for a woman who didn't even really want him, and a manipulator who destroyed a family for petty revenge. Mira was pushing through the crowd, trying to reach the stage. Tanner was right behind her, his face red with humiliation. The question is, I said into the microphone, what do we do with people like this? Colton, stop. Mira had reached the stage steps. Stop what? Telling the truth? She climbed onto the stage, tears streaming down her face. You're humiliating me in front of the whole town. You humiliated yourself. I'm just providing documentation. Tanner joined her on stage, looking like he wanted to disappear into the ground. This is enough, he said. We get it. We screwed up. Do you? Because 3 days ago, you were still blaming me for your choices. The crowd was eating this up. Phones were out, recording everything. This would be on social media within minutes. I want a divorce, Mira said into the microphone, her voice shaking. I want to end this marriage and move on with my life. Granted, I replied. You can have your freedom, but you can't have my house, my money, or my respect. I don't want your money. Yes, you do. You want half of everything I've worked for, plus alimony, plus the house. Your lawyer made that very clear. I clicked to the final slide. A copy of her divorce filing, with the financial demands highlighted in red. But here's what you're actually getting, I continued. Nothing. The adultery voids any claim to alimony. The house is in my name only, purchased before our marriage. The retirement accounts are separate property. The joint accounts are already closed. Her face went white. You can't do that. I already did. Tom Bradley, my attorney, is in the crowd. He can explain the legal details if you're interested. Tom waved from the audience, looking like he was enjoying the show. As for you, Tanner, I turned to my brother, you're fired from the family. Don't come to Sunday dinners. Don't call our parents. Don't contact me ever again. Colton, please. And Lindsay. I looked out at the crowd until I found her. You got what you wanted. You destroyed my marriage. I hope it was worth it. She was crying now, surrounded by people who were staring at her with disgust and disbelief. I turned back to the microphone for my closing statement. This is what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. When you think good people won't fight back. When you assume there are no consequences for your actions. I looked directly at Mira. You wanted excitement, drama, a life less ordinary? Congratulations. You got it. I walked off the stage and through the crowd, which parted like the Red Sea. People were staring, whispering, pointing. Some looked shocked, others impressed, a few disgusted by the public spectacle. I didn't care. I was done caring what people thought. Emma was waiting by my car, looking stunned. Dad? Hey, sweetheart. That was intense. It was necessary. She hugged me, which surprised me. I'm sorry I posted that TikTok. I didn't understand what was really happening. It's okay. You're 15. You're supposed to make mistakes. Are you going to be all right? I looked back at the festival where Mira and Tanner were still on stage, trying to explain themselves to a crowd that was no longer listening. Lindsay had disappeared entirely. I'm going to be fine, I said. Better than fine. That night, I packed the last of Mira's belongings and left them on the front porch. I changed the locks, updated my will, and closed our joint credit cards. By Monday morning, she would have no legal or financial connection to me whatsoever. I poured myself a whiskey and sat on my back porch, watching the sun set over the neighborhood where I'd built a life with someone who'd never deserved it. My phone buzzed with notifications, text messages, missed calls, social media alerts. The video of my festival speech was already viral locally, spreading through Facebook and TikTok like wildfire. I turned off the phone and enjoyed the silence. Tuesday morning brought the divorce papers, signed by Mira without contest. She'd taken a settlement of $5,000 and her personal belongings. Everything else was mine. Tanner had left town, according to my mother. No forwarding address, no goodbye, just gone. The golden boy had finally tarnished completely. Lindsay was facing a civil lawsuit from Mira, who blamed her for the destruction of her marriage. Ironic, but satisfying. I went back to work, back to my routine of guiding planes through the sky and keeping people safe. The other controllers treated me like a celebrity for a few weeks, then moved on to other gossip. Emma started spending more time with me, especially after Jennifer's new boyfriend turned out to be married. Apparently, my ex-wife had a type. 6 months later, I sold the house and bought a smaller place across town. Fresh start, clean slate, no memories of betrayal in every room. I never remarried, never wanted to. I'd learned that some people are takers and some people are builders, and the two don't mix well. Sometimes I see Mira around town. She works at a furniture store now, her design business having collapsed along with her reputation. She looks older, sadder, smaller somehow. She nods when she sees me, but we don't speak. That's fine with me. People ask if I regret the public humiliation, the scorched earth approach to ending my marriage. They want me to feel guilty about destroying lives, about choosing revenge over forgiveness. But here's the thing about being the villain in someone else's story. Sometimes the villain wins. Sometimes the good guy gets tired of being good and decides to show people what bad really looks like. I sleep just fine at night.